Hello, and thank you for listening to this episode of the Moore's October Rants. Today, I wanted to make a rant about denial because, I think that we all go through stages of denial in our life. And it's something that can be very difficult to go through, especially, when you know the truth. And it's just so hard to admit. And you just don't want to believe it's actually true. And it's especially even harder when you're talking to somebody and, you're trying to have a conversation with them and you're trying to connect with them and you want them to understand their own denial. And it comes to the point where you can't even have a conversation with them about denial, They always want to tell you it's not true, and then, it can start fights. So it can be really difficult to have certain conversations with people when they don't want to admit to something that they're doing, It can be really difficult. And denial can actually be very dangerous for friendships or any type of relationship because if you're constantly always in denial about stuff, then that means that you can never make any room for self-improvement. You can never get better. Because if you're always in denial, you don't want to admit that you are doing something wrong. And if you don't admit or think that you're doing anything wrong, then you're never going to want to change. So denial is a very difficult thing to navigate, especially with other people. And, we all come across people that are in denial about something. And it's really hard. Like I said, it's really hard to have a conversation with these people. And it gets to the point where, you just don't want to deal with it anymore because a lot of these individuals you come across are grown adults. And, this is something that children do. Like, you tell them that they made a mess and you accuse them because obviously they made the mess. You're not stupid. And they're in denial about it. They're like, no, I didn't make the mess. They're like in denial about it. That's like something little kids do. And it's pretty sad that grown adults are in denial all the time, when you talk to them, because that's such a very childish, immature thing, I already made it. Like I said before, I already made like a bunch of different rants about these topics and I covered immaturity and stuff, but, it really demotes and really takes down the quality of a conversation with someone when they're always in denial about shit. And then you're talking to them and you're trying to help them come to terms about the denial. And then they want to keep denying it and then they get angry and then, they can get defensive and start lashing out at you. And, I'm not going to, I've already made fucking 6 episodes about arguing. I'm not going to argue back and forth with them about their own fucking denial. If they're not going to admit their own denial, then there's no point in me talking about it because I'm not going to sit there back and forth and go, you're in denial. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. You're in denial. No, I'm not. You're lying. No, yes, you are. You're in denial right now. So, that's not a very productive thing. So, again, it can be very difficult to navigate if you don't know how to approach it. But, like I said, everyone goes through stages of denial. No one's perfect. No one's immune to it. Sometimes things happen in our life and we just don't want to think that it's true. We don't want to think it's actually happening to us. And it's crazy to wrap our heads around. But sometimes you have to just grab life by the horns, like Dodge says. Sometimes you just have to, just face reality. And, there's a really good saying, denial isn't just a river in Africa, because, it's kind of like the same thing when people get defeated or they face defeat and they don't want to admit that they lost. Boxers have done that. Fighters have done that, and denial, like I said, can be a very dangerous thing, especially if it's putting your life in danger. I remember when I'd go to visit my grandfather in the nursing home with my father, and there would be other people that were at the nursing home and they would be outside the nursing home, like out of their rooms in the hallway, sitting in wheelchairs, relaxing or whatever, hanging out. And some of them would try to actually get up. They would literally, their body, like their mind was still like young and healthy and youthful, but their body wasn't. So they were in denial about, not being able to do it anymore. They wanted to still think that they were 20 or 30 years old or whatever, and they could still walk and still do things on their own. And they were in denial about that because they couldn't, because they were too old. That's why they're in a nursing home. Denial can get you hurt. If you're really sick and you don't go to the hospital, it can even kill you. People face heart attack symptoms all the time, stroke symptoms, and they just think that they're fine. It happened to my mother. She denied the fact that she was having a heart attack. She had all the symptoms. My mother had the heart attack, and, there was a thing on the fridge my sister brought home because she worked at a hospital, and it literally was a magnet on the fridge, and it literally had all the heart attack symptoms, and she had like a lot of them, and, she was in denial, and she wound up having the heart attack. So denial can be very dangerous in many different ways, and, but I pretty much made my point now, so I'm going to leave this where it is. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Moore's October Rants. Have a good one, guys. Goodbye.